And just like that, we are back on the football show. Hello, and welcome to the Global Football Show with me, Mark, Kyle, and Imran. Three football geeks. We love the game. We love to talk about it, and we love to have some good debate. And we've got a packed show tonight to talk about so many things. What a week it's been in the world of football. How are you both doing, guys?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, you're right. A crazy week.
Kylie's out in bright yellow tonight. He wants everybody to see. You know, that he's Chelsea loud and proud, apparently.
Ready to get absolutely hammered in this show for the next hour.
Really? Nah, we wouldn't do that. Why would we do that? Nah. How's the week been, man? Good week?
I mean,
yeah, from a footballing perspective, it's a bit conflicting because you want to celebrate all these signings, but we are sat in 10th with no games in hand.
Sat in 10th with no games in hand. Wow, that is absolutely fantastic. So I'm not gonna complain about that, you know, Kyle. Let's get the show started. You know, if you're joining us on the Global platform, we love to talk about football. We talk about what's happening in the Premier League, and we have a chat around our fantasy league, which we're going to come to in a little bit of time. But we always got to go back to the previous game week 21, which wasn't really that exciting. Probably one or two exciting games, but I don't know what you two thought about it. Couple of interesting results though. If you go down that table, I mean, both of you served up a real bore fest with each other.
Awful game, man. Awful game.
Yeah.
It was absolutely dreadful.
I mean, it's really funny looking at. I really want to laugh, but then I remember I'm a part of the same fan base. When you see all these Chelsea fans hyping up Mudrick, absolutely blaze a 37-year-old James Milner. Like,
ooh.
I mean, yeah, it was great, but he's 37. You know.
yeah. So let's see what happens as he gets his feet firmly on the ground against some more competitors. You know, it's only Milner. What else to look for you in game week 21? Leicester Brighton.
I think that was quite a good game, and Brighton carry on showing that they can. That was a pretty tough situation they were in. I think they went behind twice in the game, and yet they still prevailed. Evan Ferguson, what a striker he is!
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
Big result for West Ham too.
It was the desperately needed one. You know, they're drifting this season, and I don't think that they're going to survive. But you know, hey, 6 points of that one between them and Everton.
Yeah,
and Haaland hat trick, which was quite a big thing.
It's just a negative thing, isn't it? Yeah.
We're not talking about him in the show tonight, but you know, you always got to get a mention because what a phenomenal guy. And I think one of the other things that happened in game week 21 was Kane, you know, leveled the record with at Tottenham Hotspur, Jimmy Greaves' record. You know, at least, you know, Harry Kane is known for something, you know. he's probably happy with that, you know, fair play to the guy. So that was a pretty interesting game week that then kind of led us to start thinking, and we've been talking about this for some time, about the Newcastle project and what a phenomenal rate of pace they're going at, because I don't think anybody actually predicted Newcastle to be where they are. They're well ahead of schedule at the moment. Nobody predicted them.
The way they're doing it, the way they've gone about it so far has been incredible. I can't lie to you, when they first got taken over, and because of how down they were, when they first got that big money in, I thought that they would have a period of like volatility where they just spend a bit willy-nilly and don't really structure it. But then getting in Eddie Howe, who seems to be a much improved coach and a steady coach, and the signings that they've made haven't been flashy and over the top. They've been what they need at the right time. For example, like Dan Burn is such a good example of that. Like a Brighton third choice centre back who's pretty much played every single game and just solidified their back four, which is such a problem. And then what they're doing this season is just unprecedented. I mean, we did not expect them to make this top four charge for another 1 or 2 seasons, but
you know,
great they're going. They could challenge for the title next year.
Well ahead of schedule, and those two numbers there, you know, the longest unbeaten run and fewest conceded goals in the league. Who would have thought that of Newcastle? And to be honest, they're quite entertaining to watch as well.
Yeah. And this is without Alan Saint-Maximin, by the way. They haven't.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like,
well, he hasn't found his feet this season. I mean,
even then, but I think at every point in this season, there have been moments where Newcastle have had quite what some would arguably call a key player injured for an extended period of time, and it hasn't dented their performances at all. You've had Isak came in and got injured after like 3 games, and it went out for ages, and it didn't bother them in the slightest. It's incredible.
Yeah. And they've continued the charge, And they've got a cup final now with the Carabao Cup, which is, I think, even going to give them more momentum, going towards the second half of the season.
Yeah.
So that is looking very, very good, I think. And surprise package, somebody's going to miss out in the top 4 this year, boy. Weep. Well, Everton needed a manager, and they could have scurried across Europe, but they clearly thought, well,
I don't think they could have.
They could have scurried across Europe, but they clearly thought, I know who will do a good job for us. Let's get Dyche in. So Sean Dyche is back. What do you think? Good appointment?
I think it is a very good appointment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's the best man for the job. I think when you look at the job he did with Burnley, the resources that they had and the constant overperformance that he achieved, he got Burnley into Europe. That cannot be underestimated.
Phenomenal.
Exactly. And obviously the project died out at the end, but after 6 years it was eventually going to go stale. My only annoying thing is that I would have rather him been given the keys to a project, for example, in the summer, rather than like a Sam Allardyce job. This is like a rescue mission.
Job.
Exactly.
He's the new Harry Redknapp, I think.
Yeah, the one that comes in to save the season. But
absolutely,
I think from both sides, it is a good way to look at it, because even if they go down to the Championship, he's proven before that he can get them promoted. He's done it twice with Burnley, and I think he would be the guy to rebuild Everton in the Championship should the worst happen. But they do have a good squad, and we know Dyche can get his teams defensively solid, especially in fighting for the badge. So maybe we'll see that Everton have a resurgence in the second half of the season and can avoid that relegation, avoid that drop zone.
I just thought it was so uninspiring, but I'm cautious because we're playing them tomorrow.
I'm kind of Sean Dyche.
I mean, you say it's uninspiring, but the options weren't great at all.
I don't know. I thought Dyche did a good job at Burnley, to be fair to him, but this Everton squad, I don't know. I don't know if he's the right person to actually. And
now they have sold Gordon as well. It's one of their biggest playmakers.
Yeah. I don't know if he's the right person to actually get them out of trouble. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that particular one. But the window slammed shut.
Yep.
Tuesday night, and there was a lot of movement by some clubs, which we'll talk about shortly. But you did a piece of business in January, Imran. Gakpo, is he working for you? Or is he working for you?
Well, I think it's important to add context that no matter what signing comes into this Liverpool team right now, it's going to be a struggle, especially if you're an attacker the way we're playing. So I'm not too focused on his performances, because I mean, in his recent performance against Brighton, he played in a new position. He wasn't too bad, but it's the fact that we've prioritized 40 mil on a left winger when we already have Nunes who can play on the left, Jota, Diaz. When there's such a I don't even need to say it. The gaps in the midfield is just horrendous.
Do I detect a little hint of Klopp criticism in there somewhere? Criticizing him.
it is Klopp criticism. I think I said it in the last show as well. FSG, of course, are a part to play, but Klopp as well has been a bit stubborn, a bit strange with the decision making this season. And I think the fact that we just did not go for a midfielder, it boggles my mind. It makes no sense to me, because it's such an obvious negative in our side right now, and it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And the way it's going, if it's not properly addressed in the summer, because not just one midfielder is needed, it needs a good proper overhaul with 3 or 4, and it's not looking very good. But Gakpo will come good, I'm sure. Klopp with attackers doesn't usually miss with his signings, and I'm sure Gakpo and Nunes as well will get it together.
Gakpo, Nunes, Diaz, everybody's just sitting there waiting for them to come good. Just sitting there waiting. They'll come good. Yeah, we'll see. But you know who bought a midfielder? Man United bought him midfielder in Sabitzer. You've been having a look at his numbers?
Quite split on this, because I think I think it's a really, really good signing, and I think Imran is less optimistic.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, so in terms of Sabitzer as an individual, I think personally, every time I've seen him, he's been quite poor, and I think that he's obviously not. I don't think he's a signing that would improve United, but I think it just adds a squad option to replace Eriksen. That's purely why they've done it, and in that regard, it's smart, but. Yeah, it doesn't. A bit like with Sean Dyche, it doesn't inspire me.
But you shouldn't want to be inspired by anything that Man United do. You should be very happy if you don't think they can have him.
Yeah,
they can have him. So he's been brought in obviously because Eriksen looks as though he's going to be sidelined for some time. And his numbers look very similar to Eriksen. Doesn't look like he has a very different type of player.
Yeah.
So I guess we got to wait and see. The Man United juggernaut is rolling forward, and they've got a lot of good momentum with them. So you never know.
It was quite sad to see that because Eriksen was in really, really good form, and to go out in the way he did was quite sad.
Andy Carroll.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of the other footnotes there. John Joe Shelby to Nottingham Forest. Gordon couldn't wait to leave Everton.
I mean,
and there was a little bit of rumblings this week around Cancelo and his exit from Man City. Well, he's gone on loan, but is there something going on there with Pep? Do we think?
Either way, it's one of the best signings of the entire window. That is.
I think it was clear. I think towards the latter end before the World Cup that Cancelo had fallen out of favour with.
He's not happy.
Some of his performances, and then also there's rumours of a breakdown in communications between the two. But I think it just shows how ruthless Pep is. As soon as he doesn't want a player who doesn't feel like he'll fit the system, he'll ship him off, and he doesn't mind doing that. And he's promoted a young player, Rico Lewis, who's doing really well. So good on him.
Yeah, and we would happily have a little bit of instability creeping into Man City. So anything of that sort would be great if we can just hear that players are falling out with Pep and things are not going well. But you can always bank on Chelsea to show up in a window and
wow.
and do something spectacular. So the British transfer record has been broken. 106.8 million for Enzo Fernandez from Benfica.
From Benfica, yeah.
Who I think he cost him 10 million last August.
Oh, yeah.
He went for 10 million. It's crazy the market we're in right
ever
now.
A player has boosted his value in the World Cup year.
World Cup
goodness.
Right there.
Yeah.
From 10 million to 100 million, or is that the Chelsea deep pockets? Come on, Carl. Get off the fence. What you saying?
I think it's a bit of both. To be fair, like I'm gonna hold my hands up right now and say that even when watching the World Cup, I was definitely one of those who criticised. I think going into the final, I think Arjun, I don't know the name of the Argentinian manager, but he started Fernandez ahead of Paredes, I think, and I was questioning that decision very much. I was like, why on earth is he starting Fernandez in this game over Paredes? That's a terrible decision. They're probably going to lose this game. And then France had a disaster class, and you know how that ended up. And now we're here spending 106 million on the guy. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a decent midfielder, but wow, what a price tag that is.
I can't lie. I think Carl's underestimating him a bit. He's top class. There is a reason that Chelsea weren't the only team willing to pay this money.
That is true.
They were the only team willing to pay this money in January. So the fact that Real Madrid, Liverpool, sniffing around.
In January, come on. Like, I think just after the World Cup, we were like, yeah, we'll spend like 80 million. The way that we've gone from 80 to 106 in the space of a couple of weeks is pretty mad.
It's because you know that if you let it run to the summer, he would not be a Chelsea player.
Yeah, true.
And the fact that he has this many suitors and this many potential buyers shows that they see something in him, which is obviously a cut above the rest. And I think only him and Bellingham offer what that top class midfielder in the market. And I think obviously they may have overpaid, but it could be one of those where
overpaid
the premium. You pay the premium for an elite player, and we'll see how he settles.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets played in the system by Graham Potter, because, I mean, the midfield is probably one of the only parts of Potter's game so far this season which hasn't been too deservedly under fire. Like, I think in terms of playmaking, we haven't been bad. It's just that once players get the ball, it's like watching kids sometimes. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do with the ball. This is unbelievable. It's either I have no options or I have too many options and don't know what to do with the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how we adapt.
Can we look through that list really quickly and just see
of
what
course.
the
I was going to say he's gone in at the top of a list that doesn't necessarily fill you with great inspiration. When you look down that list and you think, oh, these have all been British transfer records over the years, but
Lukaku's there twice. Wow.
I think honestly, could you only say that one has been a success in Van Dijk? You could actually, yeah.
I mean, Fofana's only been here for like 2 months, but even then, hasn't he already picked up a small injury? So...
I mean, he's been absent for a while,
yeah.
I mean, Harry Maguire is on this list, right? Anthony's on this list. Jadon Sancho is on this list.
You can understand to an extent Maguire being on that list, though, because Maguire the season before literally won the league with Leicester.
No, he didn't.
You can get it. Did he not?
No, he wasn't part of the league winning team, though.
Well, fair enough.
Just United doing United thing. United are the biggest corporates, man. Look at this.
Look at them. Look at them.
That's crazy.
They love to splash the cash, but when you think about it, you know there's been no success at United across all of these British transfer records.
That's crazy, yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure Imran thinks I'm a broken record at this point, but I've always said that Van Dijk was one of the biggest bargains in British transfer history.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it's unbelievable that Liverpool snapped him up for less than 80 mil.
Well, they've had their money's worth.
Yeah, of course.
And Jack Grealish, you know, he must be so disappointed not to sit on the top of this tree anymore. But we're going to see how Fernandez will perform. You seem to be a little bit split, Kyle, but you know, he looks a fabulous player.
The performances will speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, well, time will tell, but we got to stick with Chelsea because this was a window of windows for Chelsea, and one of the questions that we are asking in the show tonight is whether or not are Chelsea out of control? Yeah. Because when you look and realize that actually they could have gone and bought West Ham for the amount of money that Bowley has thrown at Chelsea, and you ask yourself, has he actually created a problem for Graham Potter?
I think it's interesting because you get the FIFA career mode jokes just in full force sometimes because he's spent enough money now to probably what the exact thing we complain about City for having, the 1.5 squad problem, where they essentially have enough players to have 1.5 full squads. But I guess the difference is that you can't really map them out in your head. Like just the day before, I think the day before City sold Cancelo, me and a friend of mine were looking once again at how City's B team, quote unquote B team, could probably still finish second and even give Arsenal a run for their money in this league. And the fact that we can do that, I mean, kind of speaks volumes, but I don't think you could sit there and map out a team for Chelsea, a first team and a second team. And I guess that, like I said in the last show, the reason for that is because you look at a lot of these players and you're like, why exactly have Chelsea brought in these players? Like, what kind of profile, what reason, what is the belief behind the signing of this player? Like, there really is a lot of questions behind a lot of the players that we've signed. And unfortunately, it's the biggest thing that is complained about really is balance and price tag. It honestly, like, what is the point of signing a player for 80 million more than he's worth?
Well, who are the 3 players now that will get added to the Champions League squad is another one of the big rumblings, you know, because who's he going to leave out? Who's Potter going to leave out now for this next round?
Left out already, apparently. I guess that was inevitable. With the incoming of Joao Felix and Mudryk, I guess Abel is never going to make that Champions League squad. But yeah, it is interesting, and I think because they're all so fresh in terms of signings, even the fans are a bit skeptical as to who gets into which position first. And as I've said so many times in this show, Chelsea fans are so quick to get on any player's back. So the second he makes a mistouch or a mistake, he's gone. Like I saw a reel on Instagram earlier today that said if a Chelsea player makes a mistake in the game, they're just going to get replaced with a £200 million signing.
Well, I've got a theory that I'll talk about later, but you know, I think it feels a little bit out of control to me. It feels as though Bowley is at home playing FIFA 23 or something, and sitting there with his son and saying, "What do you think, son? How much do you think we should pay?" It feels a little bit like that to me. You know, it might be a bit more serious, but that's how it feels.
What you have to say is, like, really think about these numbers. I always say this: really look at the numbers and look at the 500 million that you spent within a year. So Potter has to deliver top 4 now. No doubt about it, has to deliver top 4. And
he's got all the resources he needs.
And he has to mount a title challenge next year. No matter, it's an utter failure.
Listen, Potter won't be there next year.
That's what I think as well. Oh, you don't think he'll be there next year?
No, I've got a theory. I'll tell you about it a bit in a while. But you know, I definitely don't think I just think I think Bowley has created a problem for Potter because he's got too many players. You can have too big a squad. Mm-hmm. You know, and not just too many players. Exactly. All of these players now will have an expectation that they will be playing
in the team.
You know, it's going to be so difficult to manage the expectation and to manage the personalities.
Unprecedented.
Even tonight, seeing seeing Ziyech in that starting line.
Wow. Oh, like you see this dodgy business about Ziyech going to Paris and the signatures not being on the paperwork and oh man, to set him up proper.
Scandalous.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous, man. I
form,
could not believe what I was reading.
How they could do that to the guy, man?
Yeah,
Man, unbelievable. But yeah,
Terrible.
it isn't like I said to Imran a couple of days ago, like we really have to, like, and I mean this, we have to have a repeat of 2012 in this season. Because like the way we finished the 2012-13 season 6 points off top 4, but we won the Champions League. So we still got back into the Champions League the following season. And I think that is pretty much the both best and only scenario in which this is a successful season, because we're already out of both domestic cups. We're sat in 10th. Goodness knows how far we are off top 4 at the moment. And we are still in the Champions League. So that really is the only solution we have at this moment in time.
So are you saying they're out of control?
Well, I guess absolutely. Like, I can't look at this graph here and say that we aren't like completely destroying football. I think Imran, I don't know, I didn't even fact check this for myself. I tend to just believe all statistics Imran throws at me. But he said that we outspent every other European club combined.
That's
this
right.
transfer window.
the top 4 leagues, yeah. It's
So
crazy.
like
Right.
to that,
All of Europe is upset now because Chelsea's tipping the balance in and really upsetting the
I mean, I'm looking over the pond at Italy and seeing what's happening at Juventus, and I'm honestly like, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if something similar happens to us in the next couple of months.
It's coming, you know.
You mentioned the point about the other teams in Europe looking. It's not just Chelsea, even though Chelsea have obviously blown it out of proportion. But looking down that list, like look at Nottingham Forest.
Well, I was just wondering, what did West Ham spend 200 million on?
Exactly. So, like, all the top leagues are looking at the Premier League and they know they can't compete, and it's no wonder that the Super League idea emerged. And I think you could see that the Real Madrid president was foreseeing this happening, and the way the Premier League's moving right now, it is moving incredibly clear of the other leagues in terms of the money that they bring in and the money that they can spend, and it's blowing everyone out of the water. You have Juventus battling with Nottingham Forest for deals, and you're like, what's going on here?
Ridiculous. But I tell you what, look at the bottom of that table. You know, Brighton.
What a team! What a club! How they're
business,
running,
man.
Brilliant, yeah.
You know, fantastic business, and I think Arteta did the right thing too by not paying more for Caicedo, because I thought 60 million was a decent offer.
Yeah,
but Brighton wanted about 80 to 100, and I don't think he's there. So I think we did the right thing and pulled out of that deal and moved on. Now, one of the deals that went through very quietly, you know, when I heard this, I was like, what is he doing? Why would he think that this is a good sign? But you know, time has passed and the days have gone by, and I've sat there and thought, actually, you know what? I think this is a good signing for Arsenal.
Yeah,
I really do.
Of every Chelsea player that has ever gone to Arsenal, this is the weirdest sight like I have ever had to see. Like Jorginho in a red Arsenal shirt just does not look right to me at all. Like, I'm sure if you followed us for a long time, then watchers and viewers will know my opinions on Jorginho. But
I couldn't wait for you to say it tonight again, so that everybody else can hear once again. Tell us about Jorginho.
Jorginho. Goodness me, Jorginho. This guy, man, like the amount of times I've shouted at my TV screen when Jorginho has been on the ball is absolutely ridiculous. But that said, well, first of all, let me just say that if there's any club I wish he hadn't gone to, it's Arsenal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
we'll look after him for you, man. Don't worry.
I'm well aware. Like, I'm sure a lot of Chelsea fans are hoping for a Willian repeat, but I'm knowing it's because Arteta. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but it makes sense to me in my head. He manages like a midfielder. I don't know if that makes sense, but his play style, you see it. Like his team plays like midfielders. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it does.
Technical, and they're all aware.
You understand what I'm saying. And Jorginho in that kind of management system, it feels like he would thrive a lot.
Well, I was thinking to myself, is he going to fit in? Is he going to be at the same pace as the others around him? And then I started to look at his numbers compared to Partey and Xhaka, because that's where he's likely to be, passes, percentages, shooting accuracy, that kind of thing. And he's actually in and around them when it comes to passing. He's actually better than Thomas Partey. But it is whether or not the whole system of how Arsenal plays Is he going to be able to integrate? He's a top player, so you expect that he will be able to. But I think it is the experience more than anything else in this phase of the season
definitely
that
why he's going.
I'm quite happy about. Even though you gotta always, when it comes to this switch from Chelsea to Arsenal, have a look on the right-hand side because this has not always gone particularly well. Let's be honest. I can look down that list there and see, actually none of them, William Gallas, even Petr Cech, who is a legend at Chelsea. Cech didn't really. I remember when Cech came to Arsenal, John Terry was saying he was worth about, another 20 points and all that nonsense. I don't think we got the best with the Petr Cech, clearly, and even in his latter years. Willian was hot and cold. Yeah. And David Luiz the same. So this doesn't always work.
I mean, I think what's interesting is that I remember, slightly off topic, but when both Tammy Abraham and Giroud were still at Chelsea, there was a constant debate about which one should start and which one should be sold. And I remember the two things that were always brought up is the fact that Tammy Abraham just couldn't hold up the ball. It was a skill he didn't have. Whereas Giroud, you stick him in a sticky situation and somehow, some miraculous feat, he would always end up with the ball at his feet. And I think Jorginho and Kovacic are similar in the sense that one thing that always annoys me about Jorginho, and especially those people who don't necessarily watch football but love looking at statistics, his pass accuracy looks absolutely gorgeous. And that is because he's also one of those players who is really good at holding up the ball. But my biggest problem is then he'll hold up the ball, usually for no reason whatsoever, and then pass the ball 20 yards backwards.
Yeah, he's got an average of 69 passes per match.
Yeah.
Which I thought, okay, who cares? Where is he passing the ball?
Exactly, that's my point. Whereas you look at Kovacic, and Kovacic is a player who prefers to play that risky forward pass rather than playing it safe and around the back. And I think I that isn't always a better thing, but it's in certain moments of the game, you definitely want that kind of player. And for me, Jorginho just never had that skill.
What's your verdict, Imran?
I think originally, like you think of Jorginho, especially in the past few years, struggling to keep up with the pace of games and getting overrun with his lack of physicality, which is the problem. But you have to figure out you have to realize that that's in the Chelsea team that's struggling. In this Arsenal team, who are comfortable in most games now, who dominate possession, Jorginho will slot right in there and carry on the flow of the game perfectly, which is what Arteta wants. And I think that's the reason. That's what he does, Jorginho. Where he excels is in the teams that dominate the possession and where he can just keep things ticking over. A really, really like old school number 6 and like a really proper European number 6 where they just take it easy like a Busquets and just keep the play moving.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he proves to be, he bucks the trend of Chelsea to Arsenal. And of course, he is part of a bigger package because the other question we got to ask tonight is whether Arteta has done enough business. Arsenal are sitting top of the Premier League. Half of the season gone. Arsenal fans are getting delirious. I'm not. And there's a long way to go in this season. Halfway of the season still left. Has he done enough business to take Arsenal now down through what is going to be the business end of the season?
I would personally say yes. I think
so.
Going into the window, there wasn't huge holes in the Arsenal squad, like that really needed to be addressed because you still haven't even maximized the use of Emil Smith-Rowe or Reece Nelson, for example, or even Tomiyasu has played a bit part role this season. So there wasn't massive holes. And what you've gone and done is just made smart signings and not been conned into obviously going for the kill with Caicedo and killing yourself long term, because this is still a long term project. And you've just done shrewd business. Trossard for 24 mil, brilliant deal. And then you've got a centre back who is an upgrade on Holding, so now you have better squad depth, and you can rely on him rather than having to trust Holding in a situation where you might not want him to be trusted. And then we've talked about Jorginho as well for 12 minutes. Just shrewd business, and it's just little additions that should just solidify you, and in the case of an injury crisis, should help you from suffering too bad.
I'm hoping he's done enough.
What more do you think he could have done though?
I don't think he could have broke the bank in this January transfer window.
I don't think he needed to though. I'm totally with
I would probably have wanted to see another striker at Arsenal.
Really?
Yeah. I want some more at the top because I'm not convinced that when Gabriel Jesus comes back, that from what I've seen in the first half of the season and historically from his career, that he's going to give me the goals. I want the goals.
You can keep Nketiah in for that reason, and that's fine. Nketiah did brilliantly.
Yeah, but what happens if he gets hurt? If he gets injured? I just don't think we're deep enough at the top of the pitch. Yes, solidifying at the back. We've got a lot of midfielders, and I think Arteta's strategy is more about getting goals across the team, where the likes of Odegaard and Saka and Martinelli, Trossard will score goals. But I think at that top end of the field, we could have done with a little bit of an addition. So I hope he's done enough.
I gotta disagree with you, in all fairness.
You're more than welcome to.
you are the Arsenal fan.
You clearly think that he's done enough business there.
I just think like the goals are very well spread across the top of that field, and I think the one aspect that bugs me so much is it's almost similar to Manchester City last season, in the sense where, granted, Pep Roulette used to annoy you to death, but even when you did get it right, you still had no idea who was going to score in the game because the goals are just shared around so much. Yeah. And I've had Martinelli sit. What's interesting is I was looking at I love the all the functions you can get and orders of the different players in FPL. And I was looking at who are the most selected Arsenal players. And Martinelli is the second under Saka, which is interesting because he's got less goals than Odegaard.
He doesn't score enough.
It's interesting that he's got more selections, but he's also like 0.2 less expensive, and yet he's more popular than Odegaard.
Yeah,
and that's simply because he's a winger, and the way that you guys play, it's better for the wingers, and yet Martinelli just doesn't seem to score.
I think the other thing that probably fills me with a little bit of hesitation also, somebody like Gabriel, who started every game this season, who he's at his limits at the moment, I think. And once the UEFA starts back and we start to get deep into this season, I think that Arsenal back line is going to be severely tested again. So, he's brought in an additional centre back, and we got to wait and see. I hope he's done enough business, because I will be delighted if Arsenal will, hold on to this lead and go on and win the Premier League. But speaking of winning, let's talk about fantasy football and FPL. How's it going, man? Arjun is still sitting top of the tree. We say this every week. Yep. Still there, still going.
Mr. Consistency.
He is, but the gap looks like it's getting a little bit smaller.
Yeah, of course. He didn't have
40 points now.
Yeah, didn't have a great week for his standards. And you can see that the pack is closing in slowly but surely.
Paul Aaron is starting to charge up that table. You can see there, Paul Thorpe, 87 points in game week 21, making a huge statement there with that.
The top six had an incredible fortnight over the last couple of game weeks. Like 2 weeks ago, I think the gap, because I've been in seventh for the last 3 weeks, and the gap between me and sixth was no more than 9 or 10 points. And now I'm sitting here with a gap of, what is that, 20?
21?
It's tough, man.
Well,
it's good to see that Wayne has finally got a red tick on his name, but there's still that gap of 19 points between us.
I'm going to take that ticker off there just so that people can see that we are still the three of us in the top half. I don't want anybody to be mistaken about where we are between the three of us. We are still all three of us in the top half of this table, right? And his team this week, as you said, he still scored 68 points. I mean, he was outscored by quite a few of the others around him, but he's landing consistently in the middle to top 60s every week. Yeah, and that's why, even though the gap might be getting a little small, he's still clinging on, because he's scoring big, and not a lot of change in the team. He had a few disappointments in game week 21, with the likes of Almiron and Martinelli. Martinelli is a bit odd because he gets a lot of starts, but he doesn't get a lot of goals.
That's my point, man.
And his contributions always seem to be a little bit sketchy to me. He needs to add more goals to his game.
I don't think. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he had amazing games against Spurs or United.
He hasn't. I don't think he's having that good a season personally, and the fact that he doesn't bring enough goal contributions, I think we're going to start to see Trossard being utilized very, very early in this second phase of the season, because he needs goals. Martinelli needs more goal contributions. So he sits there still at number 1, 68 points, doing well. Any comments across his team, Imran?
I mean, if you look at the base is still strong. I always mention this defense, and I really like it. in terms of the bases that he covers with Arsenal and Newcastle, especially. He got on the Trippier train quite early.
Yeah,
and Trippier's having an incredible season in terms of the clean sheets and the chances
Third
created.
most selected player in FPL.
He's very, very good. Yeah.
And he's given a good return every week as well.
And then he's also just getting your captaincy right can get you so far, and he's done it once again here with Haaland.
Absolutely. And I'm going to just bring this up so the two of you can see it, because we have this little competition between the three of us to see who gets the most points every week. And
that's a solid midfield line, that is.
I've been very consistent the last 4 or 5 weeks, absolutely smashed it. Although, to be honest, I was very, very close to switching my captain to Rashford.
Wow!
Wow!
After Imran said in the last show, you got to be crazy not to captain Rashford at this. The form he's in, he's in good form.
I've captained him this week in all fairness.
Haaland went and got a hat trick, so I felt quite smug about that. Pretty settled team. I haven't made a lot of changes. Shaw let me down because he got a yellow card in that game and a lot of points and clearly didn't get any clean sheets at the Emirates, so he didn't return anything for me in that game week. But my team is pretty settled and it's working, and I'm just leaving it. So that was pretty straightforward for me. I'm quite happy with it. You can like it or not.
Like I said, your midfield line there is really, really strong. Like,
still a little bit disappointed in Kevin De Bruyne, but we talked about him in the last show.
You're fine.
I need a bit more than that, man. But
for your premium midfielder, you do expect a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 points is nothing.
They're all letting everyone down. De Bruyne, Son, Salah, they're all been having a bit.
You saved Salah till last there. I saw that. It was subtle, but
he's not doing anything, man.
Yeah.
Go on then, Kyle. You got second this week between us.
To be honest, I don't think my week here was pretty amazing, even though I think I've got 10 points above the average or something like that. Up until it was interesting because Imran, up until the Sunday 4 o'clock kickoff, was having an absolutely storming weekend, and then Haaland got that hat trick. It seems once again it was one of those weeks where Haaland bails you out. There's not much I can say about this really. There's a standout performance from Trippier as per. It's really interesting having Trippier in my team, man, because you see every weekend, it's like, doesn't matter about the performance. You got 3 bonus points. I'm like, oh, great. Every single week. I don't know what he does to get all of these points, but yeah.
I think Haaland had a little bit of a dip, and you got to be so careful in choosing him because you don't know what Pep is going to do, and then sometimes you don't know if he's actually going to be on form. But a hat trick against Wolves was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
You see, I was tempted because the 2 teams that De Bruyne always decide to turn up against are Chelsea and Wolves. I don't know why, but I know why for Chelsea, obviously, but for Wolves, I'm not really sure.
Why wouldn't he turn up against Chelsea? Heavily motivated.
I was tempted to captain De Bruyne this weekend, but I went for Haaland, and I was like, should I triple? And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. but I have played my bench boost this weekend, so I'm hoping that goes.
Every week you play something. You
have
really
played 2 things.
Playing all your cards, man. Playing all your cards. Fair enough. And Imran, look, 66 points is not going to get you ahead of the 2 of us, boy. You got
the only one with Nketiah on his team, though.
and Nketiah has been very good for me the past few weeks. I think my recent resurgence has been due to the fact that I didn't have Haaland in, and he's been on a mini goal drop for his standards. But then obviously he's come back to bite me, as he always does, because I was having a fairly good week in terms of big scores in Rashford and Saka in the big game. Estupiñán got a very nice, I think, 2 assists. Kepa, another clean sheet with some bonus points, I believe.
0 from White, 0. Wow.
Really interesting because I think the points are spread really well across this team compared to us two.
Yeah, but then no Haaland.
Yeah.
1 point from Darwin, 2 points from Adams, 3 points from Salah. 1 point from Lewis. That's where you fell down.
But I still got above the average, despite not having Haaland, which just shows that the team was strong. But that one differential is I had to try and be different to try and climb myself up the table. So
that's
how it goes. Yeah.
What differentiator are you going to have? There's not a lot left now. Kyle is playing all the cards every week, and he still can't get away from that 7th.
Well, I've still got the triple captain, the wild card, and in fact, no, I've used my free hit, so it's just the triple captain, the wild card left, I think.
So as you can see, two out of the last 3 weeks, I have, gone to the top of us. Even though I'm still 19th in the league, I'm not making any spectacular claims here. Clearly, I'm not up there with you, Imran, at 12th and Kyle up at 7th, being very consistent. But the points, the numbers, man, the numbers on this analyzer are scary because people are just scoring top points every week.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. Like, and we've even cut off now. We've had to cut off from game week 10 onwards, and you can still see the massive fluctuations. Well, in my case at least, I've still touched all three quadrants. Yeah, well,
on your way back down to the 3rd again,
no, on the way back up, actually. But yeah, I mean, the scores, and I'm pretty sure like 90% of these scores have been above average as well, which is still crazy.
What we haven't had in the whole of this season yet between you and I is a crossover, because you would notice that you and Kyle have had a couple of crossovers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you and I haven't had a crossover.
I'm just waiting for me and Wayne to have a crossover. To be honest, like I'm just waiting for the day I finally overtake him.
Wayne is actually on a little bit of a downward trend. If you see for the last couple of weeks, he's gone 3rd, 4th, 6th. So,
it's interesting. It's not even really his fault, to be honest. Like, his teams are still doing very, very well. It's just the standard of this top 10 is unreal. Absolutely unreal. Like, I wouldn't be surprised this week if I have an absolutely fantastic bench boost and still am like 2 points behind 6.
I just cannot consistently nail down that top 10 position right now. Every time I get close, I get kicked back out the next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the first time since about game week 12 where I've been closer to like 8th and 9th than 7th, than 6th and 5th, which is kind of like, it does something to your mentality, but it is what it is.
my objective is a crossover, Imran. So I'm just saying, I'm coming. All right. we had to bring back the sat race, because this week, we saw Frank Lampard losing his job at Everton, hence Deitch.
About 3 months too late.
You reckon?
Well, I mean, it's been the debate between Everton fans has been like, what was his name? Rafa Benitez got sacked before this.
Yeah, he was doing better.
Much better.
Yeah.
They cling on to Lampard, but it didn't work out, and they probably clinged on too long, probably about 7 or 8 games too long, to be fair.
Yeah.
But we've also made a little bit of an adjustment on the analyzer. So Marsh has kind of gone back to at risk. Cooper's disappeared because he seemed to be not in that zone anymore of being in the sat race. Yeah. But your guy Graham Potter, Kyle, is in there as a likely.
I think
you don't agree?
It's not necessarily that I don't agree, but like I said so many times in this season, you just wouldn't be shocked if the Chelsea board and the Chelsea fans just switch on him. And I think, like we've said in this show already, the pressure is now pretty much solely on him.
I think he's being set up. I think they've given him a hand that he can't deal with, and as I said my theory that I'll tell you, I think Potter is going to get sacked and Klopp is going to get that Chelsea job.
Ridiculous.
That's an unbelievable shout.
Really?
Unbelievable.
Listen,
Klopp would never.
Listen. It is going to need somebody to go in there and get this club settled. Because I just think that Potter is not going to be able to do it. I think he's going to get sacked.
No, man.
I don't think Bollywood.
The joke I make all the time, like, Klopp has no clothes that aren't Liverpool merchandise. He's so
Klopp's too emotional. He's an emotional manager.
Brace yourself, Imran. I'm telling you, I can see Klopp going in at Chelsea to turn that ship around.
Not a chance.
The only argument I could give.
This might live well on the internet.
To back your argument is the fact that it's only been 7 years.
Yeah,
I think Klopp is finished at Liverpool. I honestly think he is. I think he's ready for his next reinvigoration.
There's more.
I can see it happening at Chelsea.
There's more chance of Tuchel going to Liverpool than there's Klopp going to Chelsea.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, listen, you heard it here first. But when we talk about Lampard being sacked, it also does shed a light on what has been a little bit of a tumultuous path for these two. They could never, you go back to the arguments about, Lampard and Gerrard can't play in the same England team. And now it's like the two of them can't hold on a job.
Well, I don't know. I think when these comparisons come together, I think it's a bit quite unfair on Gerrard, just like he gets a lot of unnecessary criticism in the player debate when he's clear. But we won't go there. Save that for another show, another 2-hour special. But I think Lampard went to Derby and worsened them, albeit they go to the playoff final but lost ultimately. Went to Chelsea and although was under tough conditions with the transfers, petered out and ultimately did make them worse again. And then what he did at Everton was, well, quite shocking, to be honest. Whereas Gerrard has only had the 2 jobs, and one of them was hugely successful. Like, he's won Rangers their first league title in 13. No matter what way you put it, he still ended semi-dominant.
Catching at straws there, no, man.
He went invincible and did decent in Europe. And then now that he went to Villa, and albeit it didn't work out at Villa, but it wasn't as bad of a horror show as what Lampard has done at Everton.
This is Gerrard's Premier League numbers: 38 matches, 12 wins, 8 draws, and 18 losses.
Yep, quite poor.
It doesn't sound great, does it? And when you have to just bring in Scotland to save him, it doesn't really make it sound as though he's looking great in his first couple of years.
To rule him out after one. He's only been
I'm simply saying I think both of them have had very different. I mean, Lampard has had 96 games with 37 wins, and he's had a lot longer time in his managerial career in English football. But I just feel that there's something around these young managers who have gone off and done their own thing. Compared to the likes of, let's say, Arteta, Xavi, and even Vincent Kompany in at Burnley, all of the Pep proteges who seem to they've taken a slightly different path, and of course they will all get their first sacking at some point as well.
Oh, well, I will say, I did think Gerrard took the Villa job too soon. I think he should have won the Championship maybe first, or stayed for a bit longer at Rangers.
Yeah, but the Premier League is always that big draw. It will be interesting to see where they both go next, because I kind of feel like they'll probably have to go abroad and rebuild their careers and then come back.
I think. Go on, Carl.
Can I just ask before I throw in a curveball about this debate? You've got the game on live between Chelsea and Fulham, don't you?
Yeah. Halftime 0-0.
How are they playing? Because I'm seeing 0-0 and
I'm not paying any attention there.
I'm seeing 0-0 on the screen.
Looking at the stats really quickly, I can. Enzo Fernandez has been the standout player so far.
Has he? That's interesting. I'll have to try and see as much as I can here. But anyway, it's interesting to compare these two to the likes of Arteta, because back when all 3 of them were in the Prem at the same time, that's the comparison everybody was naturally drawn to make. And it's interesting because if you look at it, it would be quite an easy claim to say that you've got an Arteta, granted he is at Arsenal, but the average age of his squad at the time was the youngest in the entire Premier League. That's quite a job to do when you're the youngest manager in the league.
Yeah, of course.
And we see now that he's at the top of the league, genuinely battling the likes of Manchester City.
But yeah, you could tell though that Arteta was made to be a manager. Like, some people some players just have it, and being a great player. Because obviously Gerrard and Lampard were better players than Arteta, but how many top players make it as a manager?
Not many.
Only really Zidane, you could say, has done it and done it. Exactly. So you can. It doesn't. I think it's more related to how their football upbringing is, and like a Spanish player will always have a better football upbringing than an English player in terms of the tactical side of the game.
It's true.
Yeah. So I think
I think the point that you made earlier about Klopp. Like, I think the fact that Arteta is such an emotional manager really helps is the fact that he manages a young squad, because it just makes it more. It's like those teachers you have at school who just make everything relatable.
Passion.
Yeah.
When Klopp turns up in that Chelsea top, man.
It'll be in your dreams. You'll wake up.
It's going to be as weird as seeing Jorginho in the Arsenal show.
Exactly. Look, my theory is it's going to become too big for Potter to manage, and they will need somebody to go in there and settle it down. Who better? Who better to go in there?
Klopp would never say yes.
There's more chance of us just folding and bringing Tuchel back than having Klopp as manager.
Okay, fair enough. Let's revisit this one quickly. This was game of the week at the Emirates back in game week 21. Arsenal won 3-2 against Manchester United.
Game of the season. This
possibly it was a fantastic game, and coming on the back of the win against Spurs the previous week, I was blown away with just how exceptionally good Arsenal were when you look across the dominance that they had in that game, and going 1-0 down. And still looking as though, this is okay, not panicking. And then I just felt this was superb, going 2-1 up, United pulling it back, and then Arsenal winning it at the death. What more can you ask for?
A class above, you could see it. I mean, look at that dominance map there as well. I mean, that was a real statement performance.
Absolutely.
And of course, and the fact that you did that and also managed to get the win despite conceding 2 cheap goals, not cheap, they were wonder goals, but undeserved is what I meant to say. It went against the run of play realistically, and the fact that you've shown the mental grit and determination speaks a lot to how this team has matured in this season.
I think it has.
Eddie Nketiah to be the one that scores the brace is really good as well. I really like Eddie Nketiah.
The only blot that I think we've had in this little period that we've been going through, I would have loved to have won against Man City in that FA Cup game last Friday night, because I think if Arsenal had got past Spurs, United, and City in 3 weeks, that really would have put the confidence would have been oozing. That was a little bit of a dent, and they'll play us in a few weeks, and then I think we've kind of let ourselves down a little bit there. We didn't go full strength either, so but this was classic.
What I will say about that City game though is I think Arteta mentally played that well, because you did still play better than them in the first half, actually, against Man City. I was really impressed. And the fact that you didn't play full strength, even though obviously you lost the game, mentally you could say that, okay, we lost the game, but we played better, and that wasn't our full squad. So when we have our full squad in the Premier League, we can go and obliterate them and get the job done. So
I don't think we'll obliterate them. I don't think we'll
obliterate them. You know what he means, though. I think
we'll compete. We'll compete better than we have been, even though last season at the Emirates they robbed us. But never mind.
You dominated that game.
we will get our own back this season, I'm sure.
I think one of the more interesting things about this game, the United game, is that the end of the game, I don't think I've ever heard Emirates like that in my life.
It was so loud, man. Yeah, it was incredible.
It was unbelievable, and you can it's so interesting to just contrast that to the scenes 12 months ago when you had lost all those games on the bounce, and half of your fan base wanted Arteta out, and the other half of the fan base have no idea what they had to do with themselves. And it's now it's just such a force. It's incredible.
It doesn't take long for things to turn at the Emirates. They seem to be saying here that the Chelsea midfielder missing Jorginho, looks like it.
Wow.
Look, let's talk about the next 6 games. Arsenal go to what could be a rejuvenated Everton tomorrow at 12:30 kickoff.
12:30 kickoffs. Oof.
They're always a bit of a bogey, that one.
Yeah.
And but they're going the form team in the league and going to play against a side that it's still disarray. Sean Dyche can come in, but Everton is still in a little bit of disarray. So we will see what happens. And looking down the list, Brentford, then City, then Villa, and then Leicester. So Arsenal have got 6 games ahead now where we can settle and focus on the league until the Europa comes back. And I'm quite content with Villa, actually. 50 points. It's a good place to be as we set off on the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think all the eyes will be on that Arsenal Man City game. It will be like the Liverpool City games of the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm ready for a top game of football.
Yes, and it's at the Emirates, so we usually play pretty good against City at the Emirates. So
it is a midweek kickoff, though. I don't know if that throws a little curveball in.
I don't think it will make a difference, but we will see. Yeah. So coming away from the slumber fest that was at Liverpool Chelsea a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wolves are always a little bit of a slippery one for Liverpool.
And what we haven't mentioned is weirdly that Chelsea game. It was all the past few games in general for us. We're playing as if we don't want to lose rather than going for the win.
Flat, man. Just
shows that we're really in a pickle right now. Klopp playing to not win is very strange. It just goes against all his philosophies, but it has to be done because of the disarray we're in, and that's why it's so hard to predict what Liverpool will turn up tomorrow. So I want to say a win, but who knows at this point?
Really?
I've been hurt too much. I've been hurt too much this season.
Like, even then, like, I don't think we played particularly well in that game, but we were the better side. And what's interesting is that I don't think anybody in the world could argue that we were much the better side in that game.
Yeah,
but we weren't amazing.
Yeah, it was. We were not great. We're not a great football team right now.
No. There's got to be a lot more to come. You know, Potter's still in charge, and
gosh, you can't wait for this guy to get out of the door, can you?
He was only appointed 3 months ago.
I just got my opinions. I just don't think he's going to last. I think it's turning out to be too big a job for him, and he shouldn't have left Brighton in the first place. But anyway, that's another conversation. So you're currently drawing 0-0 against Fulham. Yeah, and then you've got another London derby. You've got West Ham to come and Southampton to come, and then you've got Spurs away and Chelsea v Leeds. Those are not going to be easy games, actually.
No, they are not. And the thing is, we can't seem to score. So it's been our problem for the entire season. I think every time we played City so far this season, all the pundits were like, "Oh, did you know Erling Haaland has scored more goals than Chelsea Football Club this season?" I'm like, "Oh wow, what a shock that is!" Like, we just
that is still the stat. He's got 25.
I'm sure it'll be the stat for the rest of the season. To be honest, like, we just can't seem to score at all. Like, we've got 0-0 in the last game, 0-0 in this game so far. But I looked at the stats in the 40th minute. There've been 4 shots in the entire game. So
each heart out. Fair enough. Yeah. So going into this weekend, then let's have a look at the fixtures that are coming our way. And
before anything
kicked off tonight.
This double game week in terms of FPL is going to be very, very actually. I'm sure
play it twice.
Sure, Imran will absolutely love the sound of this. For the first time in my FPL history, I've taken the points hit this weekend.
Wow!
Really? Ever?
Wow. That's crazy. That is actually crazy.
Man.
Wow!
I don't take them, but this weekend I was like, yeah, it's got to be done. And I was a bit annoyed because I'd planned to have Rashford and Eriksen, and then. And Carroll went and did his ankle, and I was like, throwing a spanner right into those controversial works. So I brought in Casemiro instead. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because I'm sure I'll be taking him straight back out the team the next week anyway.
I mean, the big one this weekend is clearly going to be Spurs at home to Man City. I mean, Conte hasn't been well, but do we think that Spurs can spring a surprise? I would love them to, you know.
I mean, to back Spurs in any game this season is a bit of a crazy thing to do, to be honest. Like, I think, like Imran's just said, Spurs just seem like one of the most uninspired teams in the league.
Well, this is the battle of the number 9s now, this game.
Is it the first time they've met this season, or have they already played each other? Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
I think it might actually be the first time, unless I'm forgetting.
I think it's the first time. I don't remember them playing each other.
Yeah. But you know, Harry Kane could spring a surprise here and become Spurs' leading all-time goal scorer.
Crazy.
This weekend against Man City.
For what to show for it?
Nothing. He's got nothing to show for it. There's nothing in the cabinet. And United play twice. So, you know, at home, both times actually, Crystal Palace and Leeds.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of expect that they will continue to charge, because they're really, really good form at the moment,
of course,
and playing some excellent football. So I think that they'll probably come away. Although I think Leeds might be a little bit troublesome for Man United.
I mean, it's always a feisty derby, that is.
Yeah.
While United have got 2 at home, Leeds have got 2 away.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting back-to-back away fixtures.
That Leeds Forest game is very tasty, actually. Yeah,
that'll be a good game. Absolutely. But, you know, Leeds are one of the sides that you always want to sit up and watch, because they play good football. So let's go to the table. And as you can see, sitting at the top, still, Arsenal clear by 5 points with a game in hand on City. So, you know, beat Everton tomorrow. Let's go 8 points clear, and let's give Spurs a job to do. We can't depend on them, can we?
No, you can't.
Exactly. But they won the last game, so you never know. And down at the bottom, Everton haven't won in a long while, and they've got a new manager in. I think Southampton, strangely enough, I think Southampton are going to get out of this.
You really think so?
I think
Of all the teams in the league so far, I think they're the team I'm most confident will go down this season.
Same. Them and Bournemouth.
I don't think so.
I've got
think,
more belief in Bournemouth than Southampton, that's for sure.
Wow.
I actually think the run that they went on in the cup really, might start to inspire a little bit of confidence and of that bottom three. I don't think Everton will get out, and Wolves are always in and around there. And I kind of feel, even though West Ham has spent 175 million on what I don't know, I expect that they will be down there. So I can't really see them getting out of it. So should be an interesting one. Game week 22.
Very,
Yeah. So
great to know that even though we spent 600 million on midfield and attackers, we still can't score against Fulham.
Well, I think Ziyech has been hooked for Noni Madueke, one of your new signings. Yeah.
All right, that'll be interesting.
So they kind of gave him a few minutes to appease him. We sent you to Paris. We're sorry. Come off.
Unbelievably sketchy.
Poor guy. Look, that has been the football show for game week 22 with me, Mark, Kyle, and Imran. And we will catch you on the next one. Over and out.
Bye.